Oh, there's Naomi.
Excellent.
We're ready to go. Ready to go?
I think so, yeah.
Good afternoon. I'd like to call the meeting to order for the Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Governing Board at 2 p.m. Mr. Clerk, can we have a roll call, please? Or Madam Clerk, Mr. Clerk?
All right, Clara Andriola,
Present?
Diane Vanderwell,
Here.
Donald Abbott,
Here.
Jenny Breckus, absent, Mike Clark,
Present.
Naomi Dewar,
Here.
Jean Herman,
Here.
Ed Lawson, Devin Reese, also absent, Kathleen Taylor, and non-voting member Beth Smith.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Chris, would you like to lead us in the salute, please? Pledge the flag. Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We're going to move to item 3, approval of the agenda. I'd like to entertain a motion, please.
Move to approve.
We have a motion by Ms. Vanderwell. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Vanderwell and a second by Ms. Taylor. All those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. We'll now move to item 4, approval of the minutes for August 8th, 2024. Does anybody have any changes or any noted edits? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and ask for a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Madam Chair, move to approve.
Okay, Madam Vanderwell, do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Abbott. We have a motion by Vanderwell, a second by Mr. Abbott. All those signify by saying aye to approve the minutes as presented.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Go ahead and call for item number 5, which is public comment. Do we have any public comment?
We have none.
Seeing no public comment, just to note the agenda for item 6, there is no consent agenda, so we're going to move to item 7, which is business of the day, and I'd like to move that we have Dr. Jeremy Smith present the item as stated.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jeremy Smith for the record. Happy to present item 7A, which is a status update on our research around projects of regional significance and schools. Just before I start, I'd just like to take a moment to really thank legal counsel Jessica Prunty for her thorough work in putting together her legal memorandum describing the entire history back to the inception of the agency and how we've worked and collaborated with the school district mainly, but also recent discussions with charter and private schools as well. So thank you very much for that, invaluable. So with that, I just have a brief presentation to kind of go through some of that information that's in that memo and in the staff report. Let's see, I have the clicker. It doesn't seem to be working. Oh, there we go. There we go. Thank you very much. Okay, so as we know, and we've talked about this before, there's really kind of 2 ways that the resolution that's Appendix 2 of the regional plan, the RPC resolution that defines the guidelines for what constitutes a project of regional significance. There's 2 origins to that, really. It starts in state law. 278.026 has very specific definitions of what a project of regional significance is and has numeric thresholds, and we mimic those exactly in the guidelines that the RPC has adopted. But further, there's powers granted to the Regional Planning Commission, the RPC, that if there is a significant effect on natural resources, public services, public facilities, or the adopted regional form of the region, that the RPC can choose through that resolution to adopt additional guidelines to qualify a project as a project of regional significance. So that's really how the PRS concept is established in Northern Nevada. A quick history of sort of what we've been working on since we took this on again. Boy, I'm having a hard time with the glasses here, but I'll get there. So the Regional Planning Commission, the governing board, staff, and interested stakeholders, including folks from the school district, staff, and leadership, along with folks from the charter and private school community, notably Academica, but also the state private charter school authority, we've been engaged in conversations and research around this topic since 2018, really following the Hug Wild Creek discussion that was had here at the Regional Planning Governing Board. Bit of a pause during COVID, a lot of things paused, but kind of rekindled in 2021, picked it up, formed two subcommittees, one of the Regional Planning Commission, one of the Regional Planning Governing Board, to continue the discussion. We are still in process, obviously, on trying to see if there is a path for projects of regional significance and schools, but during that process, we were able to accomplish a comprehensive review and fix of the existing resolution and just kind of added some of the stuff in that was missing, fixed some typos, and brought it up to speed with what's current. So that was really successful. In terms of planning for new schools and the nexus with projects of regional significance, our thinking to some degree has evolved as we've been having this discussion. And we really kind of see a two-pronged approach, which we'll kind of go into in a sec here in a couple slides, but there's a long-range planning aspect to this, just like there's a long-range planning aspect to wastewater, water, transportation. We also want to make sure that we're thinking ahead of where schools are going to be locating, how they're going to be capable of serving the land use pattern that we're approving. But further, there's a second prong, and that is there's a potential that schools of a certain size or with certain characteristics actually would qualify as a project of regional significance because of the impact that they're having on those aforementioned things, regional form, public facilities, natural resources, et cetera. And that's kind of the discussion we're trying to have. Where is that line that we should draw, if at all, on schools as projects of regional significance? So that's kind of how our thinking has evolved, that there are these two tracks. In discussions around this PRS concept, we've thought about ideas such as student enrollment being a trigger, or potentially proximity to existing schools or other land uses being a trigger. We worked on a guideline for inclusion last year, but ultimately did not ever propose a new guideline and sort of paused the conversation. Some of it had to do with concerns that were expressed by both the school district and by private and charter stakeholders. And those kind of generally revolved around the idea that perhaps PRS conformance review takes too long in the development review process or happens at a time that's later in the process that is after significant investment has been made. Inadequate information at the time or adequate information rather, was not really available at the time to underpin the proposal of a new guideline in terms of traffic in and out of schools, that kind of a thing. And then also that we shouldn't be singling out any type of school, that all schools really should be treated universally under this guideline. So that was some of the critique that we heard. And so basically we decided, okay, we've got the comprehensive review of the PRS guidelines done, we've got that adopted. We don't feel comfortable moving forward with this proposed guideline we had drafted. So let's take a breather. We know we've got a big thing happening, which is the regional plan update. And of course, that was the natural resource plan effort and our public infrastructure plan effort happening as all big part of that, and we really needed to focus. So it was the will of the Regional Planning Commission to kind of not totally stop doing things, but just sort of deprioritize a bit this PRS schools effort, focus on the update, and then circle back. Well, it's a year later, and we're here, and we've circled back. And so last September, last month rather, it was last September, we presented this same kind of information to the Regional Planning Commission. In the interim, we've been doing stuff such as, continuing the conversation, looking into information that we could potentially acquire that could help us to underpin a certain student enrollment. We've been watching meetings of the State Public Charter School Authority. We've been definitely trying to do stuff that moves us along. But now we're really here again at this moment to pick it up in earnest, and we're building the momentum to hopefully get this solved, and so that we can move on and implement. So, with that, let's go back to those two concepts that I was talking about, and then we'll wrap this up. Number one is the long-range planning effort. So as you guys obviously know, TMRPA plays a coordinating role and collaborative role with our conformance reviews and our plans and review of regional facilities and master plans, with looking at least 20 years out into the future, right, of what we can expect in the region. We do population forecasting. We try to link that to where we have planned to serve infrastructure. So we want to make sure that we're doing that in the schools domain. And the Washoe County School District has been a really great partner in that. They've provided us a facilities plan. They've done some excellent work recently to create a facilities modernization plan, which we're incorporating into our thought process as well. But I think what we want to try to do through this continuing effort is bring charter and private schools to the degree possible into that long-range planning arena so that, as early as we can, try to find out where do we think these schools are going to be locating and can we assess the impacts as early on as possible. So that's really kind of the first priority there. And then we have this idea of projects of regional significance. I mean, we're here as a body with the Regional Planning Commission in this body to make sure that if a big project or some kind of project is coming to the region that's going to have impacts that are going to affect more than just the jurisdiction it's locating in, that we're reviewing it against all of this information we've compiled. And so historically, schools have never triggered the thresholds as they are put into state law, as they're listed. However, I think we all know that there are some specific characteristics of schools that might, that obviously lends itself to more research and understanding of how we might want to address them as projects of regional significance, especially really big schools, because there's that signal in the morning with drop-off, and there's that signal in the afternoon with pickup. And in fact, the regional plan already addresses this to some degree with a policy about not locating schools on arterials that necessitate a speed control device of some kind. So it's certainly in the purview of what we're trying to do, and I think the idea is that we just want to make sure that we get it right before we ensconce anything into those guidelines, and that it's a solution that we can all live with and that is fair. And so to that end, some next steps that we're proposing is what we're doing right now, presenting this update to you and getting your feedback today and discussion. We're going to continue to do research. We're working on getting some software that can help us to do that. But really what is exciting in that we've discussed with leadership is getting this idea of putting everyone in a room together. And we're talking staff from Team RPA, leadership on this body, leadership on the Regional Planning Commission, Washoe County School District staff and leadership, and then interested stakeholders from groups like Academica, which are a charter school company that promote and I guess build charter schools. So getting all and local jurisdiction staff to the degree possible in the same room and have a discussion and try to reach a consensus on how we can move forward and with this new kind of two-pronged approach. So that really is the ask today, and we'll go ahead and throw the motion up, but I imagine you guys might have some questions and discussion, but we're really just asking to acknowledge what we've done, what we're saying, and then that we get your direction to go ahead and move forward and try to host that meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Smith, and thank you for all your hard work and trying to get everything together and look at how we can move this forward. It's a huge opportunity, I think, to solidify what's statutorily driven, and certainly want to thank Ms. Prunty for all of your hard work. And thanks for sending the executive summary and the detail as well. Some of us are new, some of us aren't, so getting everybody on the same page is extremely helpful. Thank you. I'd like to go ahead and open it up for discussion at this time. Would anyone like to discuss this particular item?
I would.
Naomi,
Having a
thank
hard
you.
time finding my raise hand button, but I'll raise
I
mine.
saw your hand. That's good enough.
Okay.
You could do your
Okay.
real hand. Thank you, Ms. Storr.
All right, thank you. I just want to thank Jeremy and Jessica Prunty for the work they've done on this. I was probably the initiator of this back in 2018. Vaughn was there too, Vaughn Hartung, and Mayor Lawson, and the three of us, along with Katie Simon Holland at the beginning, were the committee. And we discussed the need for this, and we've seen it over the years as our community is growing. I think one of the challenges is that when the legislation was passed and these thresholds were put in the legislation, that schools were really tied to development. And that's why the phraseology in the legislation speaks about, and maybe you could say what it actually says, Jeremy, I don't want to paraphrase it, but it's basically gets to the issue of if you have so many houses, therefore throwing off so many students, then once the student count gets large enough, we would look at it from a regional perspective. And today's world is much different, where we have charter schools, of course, private schools, of course, but we also have different types of charter schools, public and private. We have ones that are sponsored by the school district. The thing that unites all of these schools that are not the Washoe County School District is the transportation component, where the Washoe County School District has generally busing programs, and they've also made a change where they allow students under certain circumstances to go to the school that's not their closest school. And I know there's a proper term for that. They can petition to go to a different school, and going to a different school would typically involve having to have individual transportation separate than bus transportation. But anyway, a lot of it gets down to where these schools are located and the impact that they have on the region. And the last one that came in front of us at Reno was a big discussion about Mater Academy. And frankly, at City of Reno, we were conflicted. I think we had a 3-3 vote. We were short a person, and we had to carry it over to the next meeting when we also got another 3-3 vote, even with the other person present. It's very complicated. We don't want to harm education in any way, but we do want to do thoughtful planning. So I wanted to bring you up to speed that since we started this effort at regional planning, we have begun to also tackle the issue at the City of Reno alone. And heretofore, in the case of Mater Academy and others, is that an individual staff member would review the application on behalf of the planning staff, work with the various people, and then it's on a short 30-day review period, and then only elevate it to any other body if it was appealed from that position. There's no going to the Planning Commission. And this is all schools, Washoe County schools, private schools, public charter schools, private charter schools, the whole gamut. Well, what we decided, since frankly, I know that the process got a little bogged down at regional planning, we decided with our latest update of our Title 18, which is our planning code, to actually change how we review all schools of a certain size, and that is to have them go to the Planning Commission. So there is a public vetting process prior to ever showing up at our city council. They probably could stop right there at the Planning Commission unless they're appealed for some reason, and then the process would be to go to the city council. But at that point, you've had a lot of public discussion. You've had more than just one staff member at the City of Reno involved in all and working with all the parties. And there's an opportunity for public dialogue at the Planning Commission, which there really isn't when you just have a single staff reviewing back at their desk. So I wanted to say we've been on this a long time. I've been here through the entire process. We are now about to, it hasn't happened and it may not happen, but the proposal is to have all schools of a certain size, not all schools, but of a certain size, go to our Planning Commission so that they do participate in some public review. So I just wanted to bring it up. It sounds interesting, Jeremy, as far as having I guess I would call it a workshop as you've proposed. And that might be good. I will acknowledge that I don't exactly have a lot of hope from a workshop process that we would come out with the right answer at regional planning, but I always support public input on everything we do. And if you think that will get more public input than, let's say, discussing it at Regional Planning Governing Board, that is fine with me, as long as we come back to the Regional Governing Board for some decision making. So I'll cut it off there. Thanks for letting me probably go a little over.
Thanks for
Here we
the
are.
update, and thanks for all your hard work, and
Yep.
Member Lawson and others for that history. It is going to come back, just to state for clarity, it is going to come back. So anybody else have any other discussion? Beth, and then Ms. Taylor, and then Mr. Lawson. So,
Thank you.
Ms. Smith.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair Andriola. I do also have the same question about the timeline and when Director Smith had the opportunity to answer that. The reason why I ask is because there is open knowledge of additional schools being planned. And so a concern that I do have, and I'm very much in support of this plan, is that it not take too long. So as a reminder, as Councilwoman Dorr mentioned, this has been in process now since at least 2018, and the governing board sent down its recommendation over 2 years ago. So it is my hope that these next steps would happen expediently. And I do believe that that would be in everyone's best interest so that additional projects of large size don't happen before any potential changes are implemented. So I would be looking for efficiency in next steps and getting to wherever we're going. With that said, I really want to also emphasize how impressed I am with Jessica Prenti's work. This is a behemoth of a project. You did an absolutely superb job. It's very, very complicated and detailed, and there's been many people involved. But what I'll say to this group is that we as a community, and I will speak for the school district, we are better for having been pushed to engage with our regional partners in the county and the cities in a new way. We acknowledge as a district in the past that there were areas of improvement many years ago. We've since committed to that. Both the staff report and Ms. Prenti's review show where we are now. And so I do want to offer that hope to all partners across charter and private schools that by participating, we are elevating the planning for our community, and your own entities will also be better for it. So I just want to let everybody know that from my perspective. And I think that at least as it relates to the school district, things are in a much better place than where they were many years ago, and we're all better for it. So this process is really worth it. It's important that we achieve a solution here that has parity, but also recognizes the impact, because as Ms. Prenti points out, 25% of our county schools are not within the Washoe County School District. So this is not the yesteryear of when private schools and charter schools were a very small percentage. It's a growing percentage. And so that's why we need that solution. But again, I just want to emphasize that we as a district are better for having been pushed and having our city and county partners show us a better way. We've been very committed to living up to that. And I think we can achieve that overall if all of these partners really do sit down and understand the value in long-range infrastructure planning.
Thank you. I think there is expediency in terms of the expectation, and both the Vice Chair and I met to talk about this, and so even the motion includes an opportunity for this to be reported back in December of 2024. So I just wanted to make sure that that was on the record, if you will, in terms of your request for looking at an expeditious plan. So thank you. Mr. Lawson?
So, having worked on this thing for so long, is that microphone on? I can't tell. Something that I think, what this really boils down to is traffic. That's all it is. We're not going to meet any 938 employees, 625 units, all those things in the PRS. It's all about traffic. And it's the one thing that we probably get the most complaints at the city is if you live next to a school, the parents that block your driveway, get out, walk their kids into the classroom, and then casually walk their way back, get in their cars and leave, and do it daily, on a daily basis, leaving people that live next to a school in this position of having to wait on a parent to pick up their kids. So we've talked a little bit about it at Sparks in the planning, and I think this thing could be solved by just having queuing on the school site. So that you have, we got to come up with whatever the numbers are, but if you have, say, 200 students, you need to have queuing spots for 20 cars, or whatever the number is, that the parents can then park their cars, walk their kids in, or when they pick them up after school, they finish their errands a half an hour early, they're not parked throughout the neighborhood. So I just think that that's really the only problem in this whole area, and it can apply to every school. And not, I mean, private, public, any size, because no matter if you have 100 students or 2,000 students, they're mostly getting dropped off nowadays. They're not walking to school uphill in the snow both ways like we did when I was a kid.
Thank you. Ms. Taylor?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I think I just have more of a question on the logistics of the meeting. It seems like in 5 years, we haven't really got anywhere. I mean, good work to everybody. There's been progress made a little bit, but we're still in the same impasse where nobody agrees, and it looks like the concerns are very similar on both sides of the fence. There's maybe one or two that are different that I would agree are probably traffic. So in this meeting, which sounds great to me, is there additional resources that we might be able to help you with? Do you want a mediator, a facilitator? Do you want something a little bit more formal that would help us get to this deadline of December 2024? Let us know, and we can talk about that too.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chairman Smith, for the record. I think that's really a serious consideration of bringing someone in. So thank you for that idea, and I think we can move very quickly. I've alerted all parties that we want to have this meeting, and I think we've just been waiting for this moment to get the go-ahead at this body, and we'll immediately start to schedule that and look into potentially having some help with facilitation. But yep, absolutely. I think what we're going to try and do is give it one more shot to build a consensus. I think the difference really is the way we're approaching it now. With these two kind of two approaches, right? We had sort of tried to fit charter and private into the PRS scheme because we recognized the gap in the long-range planning side. And I think now that we've moved that over to be in its own sort of sphere, we can really focus on more on this, what's the student enrollment, or what are the characteristics of a school that we can all collectively agree is clearly regionally significant. That's my plan.
Mr. Clark, do you have anything?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm glad that Vice Mayor from Reno was able to, Naomi Dewar, was able to give us some insight and some long-term background on this. So my only comment is, let's have a meeting about the meeting we're going to have a meeting about. So let's move forward. Thank you.
Great. Mr. Abbott? Ms. Herman?
Nothing. It's okay.
Thank you. So given there's no additional discussion, I'd like to entertain an opportunity for a motion, please. Oh, the public. Is there any public comment?
None.
I'll pause that. Any public comment? Sorry.
We have none.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, Madam Chair, I'd be happy to try to make a motion if you wish.
Sure.
Yeah, I would just move forward with staff recommendation with the caution from our member, Beth Smith, that we hold the meeting,
Yeah.
we hold it in a timely manner, and we bring it back to regional planning in a timely manner. We may not all agree on the outcome, but I think holding a meeting is a good next step. Let's get it all out on the table where people are. And that would be my motion, is to move forward with staff recommendations.
Thank you. Ms. Strohr, would you be okay in considering the motion that was proposed, because it does have specific dates
Yeah.
in terms of December 24th? I'm not sure if that's available to you, but I'm wondering if there's an opportunity to accept the
I can
motion
just
as
read that.
presented. Thank you.
I just propose that we accept the motion as presented on the screen.
Thank you. Thank you. We have a motion as presented in the staff report by Ms. Strohr, and we have a second by Ms. Vanderwell. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, and we'll all send positive energy. We're going to see this in December and celebrate by Santa Claus or something. I don't know. So we'll move now to item 7B, an informational presentation, discussion, and possible direction to staff regarding the fiscal year 2024-2025 budget. Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jeremy Smith again for the record. And this is a quick presentation. Per the desire of this board, we've been asked to make sure that we're thinking about our next fiscal year's budget in the October timeframe of the previous year, well in advance of the jurisdiction budget setting process, and just keeps us invested in making sure we're making good decisions on our budget and that we're keeping everybody informed. So I just want to take you through a quick review. We'll visit this again in December and then bring the actual budget forward. Typically that's a February meeting thing. Okay, I have the clicker. So as I'm sure many of you remember, or maybe you're just learning for the first time, that the funding for the agency is outlined in NRS and implemented through an interlocal agreement between the three local jurisdictions. The current funding levels by jurisdiction, which are related to membership on the board, you can see up there, $425,360 for City of Reno, and $318,801 for both City of Sparks and Washoe County. That is due to the fact that because Reno has the majority of the population in the region, around 52%, they have an additional seat on this board, and they pay a little bit of additional dollars for that. We also have two shared work programs that have been very successful over the years. We have one with the Regional Transportation Commission. That one is for now typically annually $75,000. And then we also have a shared work program that's been really successful with the Western Regional Water Commission, and we bill for up to $50,000 on that one. And then finally, we sometimes get miscellaneous revenue from alternative sources. For a while, we were working with NDEP on some of that 319 funds. We finished that up. We currently are contracted for services with Nevada Land Trust to help One Truckee River with a vegetation restoration study. We're doing GIS type work for that. So that is how we get our money. And now we're going to take a look at our previous fiscal year. So that's FY 23-24. These are the pre-audit values. We're bringing the audit to you in December, and along with the financial statements, but we are aware of how much we spent and how much we got in. And during that year, we had a significant increase in funding to the agency to allow us to hire Carla, our administrative assistant. And so we also did a good job in saving money. So we saved around $65,000 from what we anticipated in that budget. So it really helps, because what I've heard since I took over as the director back in 2019 is the desire from this board for our agency to become more fiscally sustainable. And we have been moving in that direction, and I think now if we continue to go down the path that we've been going down, I think feeling really good, like we're there, that we actually have built this sustainability into the budget, and really appreciate all of your efforts towards that. So that was that previous fiscal year. In the current fiscal year, we're just about a quarter into, or just over a quarter into it. We're on track. When we ran the numbers, the bookkeeper and I think we showed maybe like a $4,000 savings. But some stuff has come up that we weren't necessarily anticipating. One is that we serve up our GIS data to the region using some hardware that's there at the RTC building. And it's several years old now. We're starting to see drive failures and having to replace drives and stuff. So we think that we want to get on top of that and make sure that we have adequate service to continue to provide these services to the region. We're exploring the concept of cloud servers, but there's just something kind of nice about having your own server. So we're looking into those costs, and we have the fund balance to cover it. Further, we talked a little bit in the previous item about software. And there's specific software that tracks mobile device location services. And that really is helpful in trying to understand traffic patterns or movement patterns, both for that schools as a PRS conversation, but also just generally in the work that we do across the region, having that kind of eye in the sky, big brother, if you will, information, which can help us to understand trends of how folks are moving around the region. So that's something that we're actively pursuing and probably has a price tag on the order of $25,000 to $40,000 annually. So we're working to build that in. And then finally, we're taking the money. I think we've been good stewards of the money that came in the 2019 regional plan update that was slotted as additional monies for implementation. We utilized that to do the update, but we've also held on to it and kept that bucket intact and been doling that money out to our consultants in support of our natural resources plan and our public infrastructure plan. Those monies have basically been exhausted now and are being absorbed back into the fund balance. So we did it. And the public infrastructure plan has been, we have a draft that has been sent to our regional plan update working group today. And so that should be available for review by the public and yourselves and the RPC next week on our website. We're excited for that. Okay, so that's where we're at for the current fiscal year. We're on track and looking pretty darn good. In terms of the next fiscal year, last year we had, I think, a great discussion with City of Sparks staff at the time about linking the discussion and negotiations about any increases to the allocations for the agency to the West Region CPI as published by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And so we've been taking a look at that, and obviously we've heard a lot about inflation recently, but if you look at that graph I posted, that's pretty positive, because we're seeing a downward trend in inflation. So at the very far right of that graph, it's at about 2%, and that's the September value. Last year, we tied it to the December value. And so hoping that that trend continues and, looking at maybe something around 1.5% as a potential increase to the allocations. What are we going to do with that? Well, we're going to continue to support our staff with merit-based raises in their range. We don't think that a cost of living adjustment is necessary this year. We addressed that over the past 2 years. We want to hire a GIS technician part-time. This is always something we want to have at the agency because we do so much GIS work. It's really useful to have somebody just above the intern status that has a little more skill set that can really help us, and we can get a lot of horsepower out of that. But definitely a part-time hire. And then, we do work with geography and whoever we can, the PAC internship program, to get interns into the office, primarily for GIS, but also for planning and admin support as well, although now we have Carla, so it's fantastic. There's always, on the lookout for increases for service costs, like bookkeeping, audits, our lobbyists, et cetera. But those costs are actually holding pretty stable, so that's good. And then in terms of any sort of salary increase for the director, I just want to say that I feel like I'm very fairly compensated. I really appreciate all of the efforts over the years, and I'd be happy to do this job again for a year at the same exact price. So thank you very much. Okay, with that, I have a potential motion up there, which just is to recognize that we did this, and I'll bring you more information in December.
Thank you. Is there any other questions or discussion on this item by anyone? Mr. Clark? Ms. Taylor? Mr. Abbott? Ms. Vanderwell?
Yes. I just want to add there that for you to see the managers before a final budget's proposed, so that you can get input from all the different managers.
Thank you, Mayor Lawson, Chairman with the record. That is actually definitely in the staff report, and before December, I will be starting that conversation with all three managers. Thank you.
Great. Ms. Dorr, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Not at this time.
Thank you. Ms. Herman?
Not at this time.
Ms. Smith? All right, here. Anything, Ms. Smith?
No, thank
Okay.
you.
Hearing no other need for discussion at this point, I'll entertain a motion as presented. Oh, my gosh. You know what? No one asked for criteria for you guys putting me in this position. Is there any public comment?
No.
Okay. Let me ask again to make up for the mistake. Is there any public comment? Thank you. Hearing no public comment, I'd like to entertain a motion at this time, please.
Madam Chair, I'm prepared.
Thank you.
I move to recommend that TMRPA staff begin developing a fiscal year 2025-26 budget that considers the assumptions in this report as well as discussions during today's meeting, and that more information regarding a draft FYE 26 budget be brought back to this body for review during the December 12, 2024 RPGB meeting.
Do you have a second? Second by Ms. Taylor. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. We'll now move to item C, which C and D are two separate items, but essentially a topic in the sense of directly related to the director. But I am going to turn this over to Ms. Prunty.
Thank you, Chair Andriola. Jessica Prunty for the record. Before you in your packet, starting at page 19, is a memorandum from me summarizing the evaluation results that were received from the members of this body. There's the prior year's average in each of the subject areas, as well as the total average, and the current year's average, along with comments in the different areas of performance and recommendations for, future improvement. There was also, as far as future performance objectives, a comment from one of the members that it should be discussed here before this body. The proposed action for the body is acceptance of the evaluation results. And further, in taking into consideration further additional comments made today, any other performance objectives for Director Smith, and any, directions for improvement. I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you. Would anybody like to offer any recommendations or consideration in terms of, obviously, any performance areas that would like to be included that aren't? So the action that we're taking on this particular item is really to approve the evaluation as it has been presented to us.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So the motion can be for essentially to accept as presented. If someone would like to make that motion.
Well, Madam Chair,
Yeah,
before we make the motion, I at least wanted to just say that, as one of the members, I continue to be really impressed with Dr. Smith's performance. He has not slacked off. He has met and exceeded all of our expectations over the years since we first appointed him. And I'm incredibly grateful that he continues to serve in this role and has not jumped off to other jobs. He clearly loves it, but we love him in the position, at least, speaking for myself, maybe not we, but I, and I suspect it's shared by other members, but I didn't want it to go unsaid before we make the motion, how incredibly impressed I am by his continued service and productivity and continuing to take on new challenges. So, thank you.
thank you. Ms. Taylor, did you have?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just had a question again for Mr. Smith. In one of the comments under continuing professional development, it was not my comment, but it says needs to keep expanding his horizon. And my question again, do you have everything that you need for training opportunities? Are there other things that you want to pursue that you need our support from? I think we would be supportive of making sure that you expand your horizons in any way you want.
Thank you very much for that question, Jeremy Smith, the record. I think we do have what I need. I don't talk about it a lot, but we're constantly looking into new ways to do things. I work a lot with Pool Pact. They have some management training that I'm planning to take that course, and also that's available to staff, and they've done some of those courses. So, I'm also all ears. If there's something that you guys know about that you think I would benefit from, I'd be happy to participate in any sort of, training or conference or whatever it is that you think could be helpful, because I'm a lifelong learner. I like to learn, so that'd be great.
Thank you. Anything else? I, too, would like to echo Ms. Doerr, really, if we could have put a category for rock star, I think that would be an appropriate category. I had just mentioned, I just came back from, or left a conference that's still going, or probably just ended, but they were like, where are you going? And when I shared, oh my gosh, he's just amazing. The agency is amazing. Every time you actually mention this organization, the level of positive comments, and just in the short time I've been here, to see how you've taken it and continuing to never have mediocrity as being the standard is what I would say. And I think that's embedded in the culture of a small but mighty team that does a lot for our region, really. So thank you for your leadership, and thank you for the team, because when you have a great leader, it means you have a great team, right? And so together you all are rock stars, in my opinion. We'll come up maybe at another time when it's appropriately agendized for whatever kind of rock band name you'd like us to consider. But at this point, I'll go ahead. Any other comments? Are you ready? Is there any public comment?
No.
No public comment. Okay, I'd like to go ahead and entertain the motion that would essentially be accepting this evaluation as presented.
Madam Chair, I move to accept the presentation as submitted.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Ms. Taylor? Oop, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We'll now move to item D. Ms. Prunty.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jessica Prunty for the record. Page 23 of your packet is the first page of a memorandum from me again regarding the director's annual contract and compensation item. Excuse me. Historically, what this body has done is vote to renew the contract, if that is your desire, and then delegate the negotiation of the terms and conditions of the contract to the chair and/or vice chair together. And if that is this body's choice this time, I would recommend that I would meet with the chair and vice chair, if that's the direction of the body, and Director Smith, and we would discuss any changes to the contract, any changes to compensation, and bring that back to this board at the December meeting for ratification and agreement. The memorandum sets forth the past compensation for Director Smith, starting with his interim director position in 2019 to 2020, and sets forth an estimate based upon the TMRPA's bookkeeper's values provided to me over the years of the benefit package and the base salary, and with the respective increases from year to year. You can see that his current compensation is a base salary of $181,900, and his benefit package is set forth there as well. And so today, if there are any particular opinions about what type of increases members of this body would like to see, any potential parameters for the negotiation team, I think it would be appropriate for those comments to come forward so that that can be utilized in the negotiations with the advantage of that perspective and information from members of the body. There's a suggested motion at the end of my memorandum, which is on page 24 of your staff report, and I'm available for any questions.
Just like to add for clarification, if there is any member that has any recommendations, that those be emailed directly to Ms. Prunty. I would like to just clarify that that's where that information should go.
Absolutely. Excuse me, Madam Chair.
Thank
Jessica
you.
Prunty for the record again. I'm available via telephone or via email for any member to communicate with me on this topic, and I can bring those concerns to the negotiation team or those suggestions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion, further discussion? Ms. Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question regarding the recommendation in our previous conversation on the budget. I didn't see this in the budget for next year, but it looks like there could be a possible 7% increase. Was that included in budgeting for the previous year? I saw 5% for employees.
I think, Jeremy, for the record, I typically budget in an amount around 3 to 5% for this, and trying to match that the director compensation to the allocation increases that happen at this point. I feel like we've developed a really good baseline for the director's salary, and so that's the way I've been approaching it.
Okay, so I don't have any questions or concerns based on the budgeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lawson.
I just, in the negotiations, just to take in consideration what the other directors and employees at the different entities are getting. We don't want to be way out of line, and because then I have to deal with that other side of that, which, we want to be fair, but we also have to be mindful of the budget.
Thank you. Any other comments? Ms. Durer, Ms. Herman, Ms. Smith?
No.
Okay, hearing none, I'd go ahead and ask if we could.
I'll just make one quick comment.
Okay,
It is very common for Dr. Smith to request no increase.
I know.
And I don't know that I am happy with that. So we're relying on you, Madam Chair, and the Vice Chair to come up with a proposal. And I'm unclear, are you planning, if you do propose an increase, will you be bringing that back, or would that
Yes.
just? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
so
then, go ahead.
I was just going to say, yes, all your, the motion is just allowing the opportunity to have a discussion and negotiation, the terms and the conditions, to both myself and the vice chair, along with council and Director Smith. And then that, whatever that is, will come back to this body for approval and further discussion or recommendation at that time.
Yeah, you can remember, we just had this conversation yesterday about Tumwa.
I do.
That was the process I was seeking to replicate. But regardless, all I want to say is I hear what Mr. Lawson's saying, and I also think that Jeremy or Dr. Smith at least deserve some kind of token recognition, monetary. That could take place in a % increase or a bonus, I think is still an option. But anyway, I'm interested to see what you come up with, and I'm sure I would support something along those lines. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, I'd like to go ahead and entertain a motion at this time, please. After I get public comment. I was so close.
We have none.
Thank you. Okay. Back to, and would someone like to make a motion, please? It's on page 24.
I'll go ahead and do that if you'd like.
Thank you, Mr.
I
Lawson.
move to renew Director Smith's contract for a one-year term and to delegate the negotiation of the terms and conditions to the chair and vice chair with the negotiated contract to come back for consideration and ratification at the RPGB's December 12th, 2024 meeting.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Ms. Taylor, second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We'll go ahead and close item 7D and move to item 8, the reports, and Ms. Smith, Washoe County School District Board of Trustee, member report.
Thank you so much, Chair Andriola. So first, just wanted to check in with everybody on Vaughn Middle School. The construction is going very well. I want to say thank you so much for the agencies who have participated in that first phase of construction. We know that there were some impacts to streets around the construction site, although that portion has largely ended. And so for those who are also interested, there will be enrollment boundary changes as a result of that school project. And then we'll begin a public process for that starting in early 2025, because again, Vaughn will be opening in school year 2026. Things are going really, really wonderfully at the Debbie Smith CTE Academy. So just as a reminder to anyone in the community, applications to be a part of the very first year of that school, which opens next August, those applications close tomorrow. But the construction is going really well. We've done really incredible work with the DOT as it relates to sidewalks along McCarran. There's a lot of great work, really just bringing to heart and to light so much of what we've discussed about being good partners around pedestrian and roadway traffic mitigation as well, but very, very excited about that project. And then another thing I wanted to mention was the moving of the Stead Elementary School. We just talked about how important it is not to be building schools on main arterials. So just as a reminder to everyone, we have identified Stead Elementary School as one of the schools that will be moving. So it will be coming off of Stead Boulevard and it will be moving into its new location, which is right at the corner of Cloudburst and Silver Dollar. And so that's a really good example of us taking those lessons from the past and making sure that we're being very mindful about new school siting. So that will definitely help with some traffic in that area as well. And then lastly, we had a very successful Capital Funding Protection Committee meeting last week, and we are beginning some potential design phase work pending a board vote from my own board next Tuesday as we begin to contemplate what a new administrative building will look like. And that's a future level project as well. And so that's what I have at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and close that item and move to 8B, members and directors report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jeremy Smith for the record. Just have a quick report here. I just want to talk about the path to the regional plan update, because that is something that, we had hoped to be doing today, but due to some scheduling conflicts, we shifted the adoption meeting to December 12th. And actually, that's really worked out in our favor, because it's given us a little more time to really make sure that our public infrastructure plan draft is ready to go, and we can put it out there in a way that we're not going to have to recant. That is currently in the hands of the Regional Plan Update Working Group, just today, so they just got it. But it has been vetted by our consultants, which is really great. And we anticipate that next week, we'll be able to post a version online that is stylized to the final document style type. And then that doesn't mean that the comment period is over. Really, that means that it's just going, and we can continue to look at that and receive feedback from yourselves, from the RPC, from the public, from our working group partners, really, and bundle up a second version in advance of the public hearing process, which is required by state law in advance of adopting the regional plan. So I did send an email to all of you indicating that we had finalized dates. We're actually required to hold a public hearing of the RPC to review the updated plan physically in each jurisdiction. And so just to remind folks what's happening there, on November 13th, we'll have the first of those. That'll be in the unincorporated Washoe County jurisdiction at the Marvin Picola School on Foothill Road. Then on November 18th, we'll move to the City of Reno jurisdiction, and we're going to actually host the RPC meeting in the Regional Transportation Commission boardroom. That'll be kind of really our first attempt at using that room. That's obviously where our offices are too, so really convenient for us in Reno. And then finally, City of Sparks was kind enough to allow us to use their council chambers on December 2nd. All of these meetings are at 6 p.m., and that will be then the final meeting of the RPC, where all of the products will be in their sort of, I like to say baked, but final form. And obviously my hope is that they recommend adoption of all of that stuff, the plan update itself with the couple policies we're adding, the public infrastructure plan document and dashboard, and the natural resources plan and portal as part of the big package to come here on December 12th for your final review and hopefully our adoption. So that is what's coming up, and that's what we're pretty darn focused on until we get through that. In addition to, of course, expediting and making sure we get that project of regional significance meeting happening. And the last bit is that we're also supporting right now the Regional Transportation Plan update. And so we've been working on that. Damien and I are hard at work working on the future model years. So that's the stuff that we have ahead of us right now. Thank you very much. Oh, I'll just say our next meeting is in this chambers, December 12th, 2 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. December 12th is going to be a really great meeting, isn't it? So make sure everyone puts December 12th on their schedule. I'll go ahead and close that item and move to 8C. Ms. Prunty, Legal Counsel Report.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Jessica Prunty for the record. I will be following up with the Chair, the Vice Chair, and Dr. Smith to coordinate our negotiation meeting on his contract shortly after this meeting, and I look forward to that conversation. And beyond that, I have nothing else to report. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you again for all of your hard work and sending out all of the detail. That must have been fun traveling down memory lane, so.
It was a lot of work, but it was a very interesting project, and for me, it was quite enlightening. The various manners in which this entity and board have grappled with schools. And so I hope that you found it informational, and I appreciate all of the comments from everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and close that. I move to item 9. Any board comments or requests for future agenda items? Do I have to call public comment on that? Because the next thing's public comment. I'm just saying.
Just in case.
I'm paying attention. Okay. We'll go ahead and close that item and move to item 10, public comment.
We have none.
Okay, thank you. Any written correspondence?
There's none.
Thank you. And so it's my pleasure to thank everyone for coming and to adjourn at 2:58. Thank you. Oh, I got to do this.